Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to more Wargame Red Dragon. Today we're checking out the South Africa DLC. So we already played with this on launch for about 8 hours on Twitch. So if you don't want to miss out on those live streams, please do check it out. Hit me up a follow over there, it's greatly appreciated. And also join the Discord, we'll be doing some more games in the future. So, let's get started. In the logistics tab, and we're going to be doing this the old-fashioned way, like I always used to do it, by quickly going over what kind of units we have and then going through my selection. So we start off with the L.O.L., then we have infantry commands. They're coming in these regular trucks. They come in these Mad Max looking like vehicles with a twin 1919 on the top. They also come with these vehicles, which are quite good actually for also general troop transport. So these will be used quite a bit in the infantry tab if you're a fan of these. They also come with a 20 mil, and we also have a Rattle, kind of like a BTR look-alike with a 20 mil as well, which has one more front armor and goes way faster off-road. We also have the Rattle 20 with a Milan on top, so just the regular Milan F1. And then we have some interesting units, the Rattle 60 and the Rattle 90, and these have cannons on top. So this guy can use his cannons as a mortar at almost 4,000 meters range, with decent accuracy, but only, 2 HE, so it's not really going to do much, but you could smoke with this. Then you have the Rattle 90, which is actually like, it's a cannon. It's not a mortar, so it's a cannon, a 90 millimeter on top of this thing. It's quite interesting. But it is super fast on and off-road. And this I will return to later on in the tank and vehicle tab as well. You can also get them in the Puma 330, so you're seeing a lot of French vehicles in this deck for sure. And we have them in the Oryx, which is basically just an adjusted version. It has 2 more strength, and it goes faster. So this might be better for you if you really want to go for those long-range command caps. Then we go to the tank tab, or tank commands, and we start off with the Oliphant BV, 130 points, just a regular light tank to use as a command. And then we have the Rattle BV, which is basically the BTR commands that we have. We also have the Rover BV, just a UAZ command. The only good thing about these is you get 7 of them in 1 card, so you could delete one of the command cards. We have the Buffle BV, the Mad Max vehicle again. Obviously it has no top armor because it's literally a metal bucket. And we have the Caspier BV, which is also quite a decent command vehicle. It does have 1 less front armor, not that it's really going to matter, but it is a bit cheaper, so you could probably go for this guy. Then we have a fob, we have a super Frelon. It kind of looks like those bull terriers, the British bull terrier dogs with the, the flat face. It does have a lot of supplies, 3,700, so it's actually not too bad. And then for supply trucks, you have a 500 liter and a 2,400 liter one. So it's quite insane. So what we've put in the logistics is a fob. We put the command infantry in the helis. We took the Rattle BV. It's just the one I went for because it's really fast off-road, so I can quickly move it around as well if I'm getting artied or whatnot. And we took the 500 liter supply trucks because 40 points is quite steep. And, just buy a few of these and you get the same thing basically. So, infantry tab, and this is where it gets really, really interesting because there's some really good infantry units. First of all, we have guys with recoilless rifles, the B10 Unita. They come with AKMs, it's a 5-man team, as you can see. They have the B10 recoilless rifle. This is an 82 mil, 1400 meters range, 40% accuracy, with 2 HE and 12 AP. So, yes, it could take down some lightly armored vehicles, but I've never really been a fan of these too much. Like the tank Xiaoxiao that the Chinese have are just way better, I think, from what I can remember. But, the units are still there for you to use. So, I took, you have them in the Buffles, these Mad Max vehicles. The Caspier Mark II with the 30 cals, with the 20 millimeters, and then you have them in the 2 Puma variants. In the next lineup, we have the Bokop, and this is kind of like your line infantry. They're regular trains, so you can really fill up the front line with these. They come in the Buffles, the Caspier Mark II, the K-Car, and the Rattle 20. So this is the BTR that we looked over in the logistics tab as well. Then we have also the Rattle 20 with a Milan. So these also come with a Milan vehicle, which is pretty cool. Then we have a lot of transports here. We have the Rattle 60, which is a 60 millimeter Rattle, basically, and we have the Rattle 90 with the 90mm cannon. Then once again we have them in the helicopters. Now these infantry units actually have a pretty good loadout, except for the AT. So they have the Vector R1. It's kind of like a battle. It is a battle rifle. Kind of reminds me of the G3 or the FAL. And then we have the Bren L4, which is, yeah, it's outdated, but it'll still do some damage. So these are pretty cheap line infantry that you can get for 20 points. So that's actually not too bad. Then we have the 90s version. Now these are also regular trained, but they have a huge upgrade in AT. As you can see, instead of the RPG-7, they have the FTS anti-tank, which is basically kind of like the APLAS with a bit less range. 60% accuracy, 23 AP, it's insane. This thing is going to clap some things. Instead of the Vector R1, they have the R4. In terms of how much is it better, in terms of rate of fire it is, but everything else seems to be either the same or slightly less. And they have the FN Mag instead of the Bren L4, which in general is about the same. It has slightly less rate of fire, so I don't think you're really going to notice any big differences in CQC, but in terms of anti-tank you'll definitely see some improvements. So we have them in basically the same vehicle, so the Buffle lineup, the Casper lineup, the Rattle lineup, and the helicopters. Now we're moving into the more interesting field of infantry, the shock troops. Now we have a 15-man shock troop here. It's called the Buffaloes. They come with the G3, the RPG-7, and the HK-21. Pretty good infantry. They're shock, 15-man, really good accuracy on the guns. The RPG obviously isn't the best, but you can take some transports out with these. But for 35 points, which is the cheapest variant you can get, you're getting a 15-man shock troop. So it's actually pretty good. But yeah, you get them in the Buffles, the Casper Mark II, the K-Cars, once again basically the same lineup here. But then the 85 version is where things get interesting. You get the AKM instead of the G3, which is arguably an upgrade, I guess, because of rate of fire and stuff. Then we get the RPD instead of the HK-21, which has a better range, less accuracy, less stabilizer, and but more suppression. But the main thing is you get Milan F1s in these guys. 9 Milan F1 anti-tank guided missiles, 2400 meters range, 40% accuracy, so not great, and only 17 AP. But I mean, it's a 35 point shock infantry of 15 strength with 80 gems in it. And I'm loving these units, and that's why I kind of put both of these variants in here, so Buffalo 85s and the regular Buffaloes. Then we have Militia. Honestly, I've seen people use Militia really successfully. They're 15 points. But geez, is it fun to use them. Then we have another interesting unit, the Inflict. Now the Inflict is also a recoilless rifle unit. I thought initially it was kind of like a mortar team, because of how this thing looked. But it can fire at 2 kilometers with 30% accuracy, but 4 HE, so it really wrecks infantry, even if they're in buildings, or especially if they're out in the open. So if you do kind of play fire support quite a bit, these guys might be something for you. Then we have mech infantry, and these guys are actually not too bad either. They're 10-man squads. Vector R1 once again, FN Mag, and they have the French LRAC F1, which is kind of like an okay, it's a pretty good anti-tank, really good accuracy, 19 AP, so it's actually not too bad at all. And they once again come in the same vehicles that we went through earlier. We also have the 90s version, which is an upgrade in terms of anti-tank. So in terms of the weapons they use, so the Vector, you get the R5 instead of the R1, and you get the SS-77 instead of the FN Mag. Not huge differences in general, but the anti-tank is really just insane. Instead of 19 AP, you get 23, and that really makes a difference sometimes with heavy tanks. And that's only a 5-point increase in price. Then we have Milan teams, and I don't know if these are even relevant anymore in this deck, because you can just get Buffaloes instead. But if you're a fan of having individual Milan teams, you can also get them. They just have the Milan F1s, and they come in the same vehicles once again. We have the Parabats. These are shock troops once again. 15 points, 10-man strength. Really similar to the earlier shock troops that we went over. But the 90s version once again have the FTS, so the better anti-tank. Then we have Sappers, so anti-infantry infantry. These guys have the Flamethrower. I've never really used these too much. But if you're really a fan of forest fights and you want to just burn the place down, these might be something. Then Special Forces, SASF. These are really good. These are really, really good. They're only 10 men, but they have really good loadouts in general for a 25-point elite infantry. So the training really makes them just unbeatable if you're up against regular infantry. They have R5s, the LRAC, so these are already quite decent loadouts. The Strela 2M isn't the best, but if you're elite strength or training, you know, that'll bump up the accuracy quite a bit. But the 90s version is where it's at. The 90s version is really, really, really strong. The assault rifle stays the same. You get the PLAS instead of the LRAC, 20 rate of fire, 23 AP, it's incredible. And then you get the Stinger, which is basically better range in general, and also 10% more accuracy and 2 more HE. It's great. Take these guys, for sure. In terms of transports, everything is basically staying the same. And then we have a load of anti-air infantry that I don't really know what to do with. So you have these Stinger units, we have Strela 2s, and then we have Strela 3s. Do me a favor and don't touch these. Okay? The support tab is really good. The support tab was one of the things that really caught my attention. Now you have the French Crotals called Cactus. And this is the basic Crotal that the French have. 3,325 meters range on helicopters, 2,600 on planes, 60% accuracy, 6 HE. So it's going to one-shot most helis. But then there's an upgrade. 3,500 meters range on helis and 65% accuracy. And also, they go 150 kilometers on the road, just like the regular Crotal. So these are insane. But then we get even better. We get the Roycat ZAHVM that basically says, okay, I'm also going to wreck helis or airplanes by having 4,200 meters range, and I'm going to be speed off-road. 120 kilometers per hour. It's quite incredible. And also actually has armor, so it's not just a glass cannon. Then in terms of artillery, we have the Eland 60s, 60mm kind of derp cannons. It's trying its best, okay? So it's a 60mm mortar. We have the Rattle 81, which is a 81mm mortar. And then we have the 120mm as well. And these really look similar to the French units that we've been reviewing in the past. We have the Rover 107, which is the best unit in the game. It has rockets, 1607mm rockets. I've never used these, but maybe I should. We have the Valkyrie, which is an upgrade in terms of the caliber of rockets, the amount, the range, and also HE power. So these could actually be viable. Then we have something even better, which is the Battleur, which has more rockets. But in terms of HE, or instead of HE, it's actually AP. So in terms of rockets, you actually get quite a few choices. But I don't know if this 3 AP is going to do much. Then we have this artillery piece from World War II, which was the British one, the 25-pounder. I'm actually quite a fan of this unit in Steel Division, or I used to be. It's not too bad, but I just wouldn't touch this and go straight for the Rhino. The Rhino has been incredible in all of the games that I've done. Yesterday with South Africa, this guy has been just sniping things. We're so good. And actually has armor as well, so you will survive some hits. It's really, really good. Then we have some support vehicles. We have the Eastervark, which is a 20mm Oerlikon on that Mad Max vehicle. It didn't do too bad. It was actually not pretty good at stunning units. Then we have the Bosvark, which is the ZU-23 on a truck. And then we have the Roycat. And another incredible thing about this guy is, so it's a Spag, but it goes 120 kilometers per hour off-road. That is insane. So you can really do some blitz with like armored units and having Roycats in the back and just charging up to the front. It's really, really good. So what I've gone for is 4 of these Roycat ZA HVMs. So the most upgraded version you can get of the Crotal kind of lineup. We went for the Cactus, so the upgraded Crotal, which is non-radar. So these guys you don't really need to micro. Incredible range on helis. We went for the 120mm mortar, Dorado 120s. We went for 2 Rhinos. And we went for 5 of these Roy Cats. I just completely filled up the support tab because all of these guys are just really, really good at doing exactly what they need to do. They're really nice to have in your battle groups, or in your decks, I should say. Now in the tank tab, we go into quite an interesting kind of setup. First of all, let's start with the beast that they have called the Logim, which is kind of like the STRV 121 that the Swedish have. So not the best armor, but the cannon is really, really good. Max range, 70% accuracy, 23 AP. It's going to smack. It does only have 20 front armor though, so do keep these guys kind of close to either tree lines or smoke or something like that. Then we start with the cheapest tank that they have, the Oliphant Mark 1. Could be good for fire support and whatnot. It's not the best. You have a slight increase in gun range, accuracy, and AP power with the Mark 1A. But then you really move into the better range with the Oliphant Mark 1B, which has a really good cannon actually. It's not that bad at all. But then you have the Oliphant Mark 1B Optimum. And if we just compare the two, you can see that it has 1 more AP, but 4 more front armor. So if you really want to fight out in the open, these guys might be the best thing to choose. If you want to support infantry, go either Oliphant Mark 1A, or just do yourself a favor and go for the Mark 1B. Now, Roy Cats. This is a 76mm, 65% accuracy cannon on wheels. 150 km/h off on-road, 120 off-road. There's so many vehicles that can go 120 km/h off-road that really makes it possible to just have these guys race out in the open on like huge desert maps with AA racing right behind them, going also at 120 km/h. I really need to try that strategy out. Then we have the Roy Cat 105s, basically the same thing but with a 105mm, which is arguably the better choice. Amazing stats on that cannon. Again, 120 km/h off-road. It's incredible. So what we went for is 12 of these, 8 of the Oliphant Mark 1B Optimums, and then we went for 2 Logims. Why 2? You could also go for trained, but usually when I play with tanks, I either micro them really well or I support them with like anti-tank other units like 80 gems or whatnot. So I'm really not usually dependent on tanks that much. In the recon tab, we have quite a lot of recon units. So we have the L.COL, for instance, which has very good optics. It's also very small, so it's not that bad at all. We have the Eland 90, so 90mm. That cannon is bigger than the vehicle itself. But it has good optics, so it's not too bad. And it's pretty quick on and off-road as well. Then we have the Eland 90 NTAC, which also has M-Class missiles on it. Then we have the Roy Cat 76, which has very good optics, but medium stealth. But once again, it's very fast on and off-road. So this guy obviously is also what I have put in my deck. Then we have Para Pathfinders. These guys are really, really good even as line infantry. It's a 10-man shock troop with very good optics, and they have a 40mm grenade launcher. It's incredible. They have the Vector R4 again and the HK21, and once again they come in all of the same vehicles that we discussed earlier. We have a Rover Recon, very good optics, medium stealth. I think it should be good stealth for this guy because of its size. Then we have Special Forces that have a 20mm sniper on their back. And I've actually used these guys successfully to flank all the way behind enemy lines and start sniping enemy artillery. Really, really nice units to have. Exceptional stealth, very good optics, elite training. They have the Vector R5 and one of the these NTW 20mm. Really, really good. Then we have Trackers. It's a 5-man team. Very good optics, very good stealth. So you could really sprinkle these guys all around the front line. Then we have the XH1 Alpha, which is already kind of a meme because of that orange nose. It's good optics, poor stealth. I mean, yeah, I think that already takes care of the stealth. But I'm not a fan of this heli, but it's only 30 points and has a 20 mil, so it might actually do good. Now what I've gone for is 7 Alouettes. I went for 4 of these SASF snipers and helis. I went for 5 Roy Cat 76s and 7 Paratrooper Pathfinders to also act as like frontline infantry. They're really nice to use in that way. The vehicle tab, not a huge amount of choices. So we have the ferret and tag once again. In this case, instead of a cannon, we have a machine gun, M1919, and we have the N-Tag M-class missiles. Now, in terms of AP power, it's pretty good, but range and accuracy are just horrible. We also have the Ferret Mark II with Milans on it. So once again, Milan F1s are like the best Milans you can get in this deck. But, you know, it's 25 points, it can do some damage. But then we have an upgraded variant in every way, shape, or form, which is the Rattle ZT3A1, which has these Taylor Swift missiles that fire at 2600 meters range, 70% accuracy, but only 20 AP. So if you get a bunch of these on the front line, you move them all at once, it'll definitely do some damage. Once again, it's very fast on and off-road. So speed really seems to be a thing with the South African nation. I don't think this guy has a jaw anymore. Then we have Rover 106, which has a 106mm recoilless rifle. Could be good fire support for only 10 points. We have the Ferret Mark II, so basically an armored version of that Rover. Then we have the Rattle 90 FSV, once again poking its head out. The only thing I went for really is a Rattle ZT3 AI, or A1. Now in the Heli tab, I'm just going to go through what we have once again. We have the L.COL K-Car, 25 point units. We have the XTP1 Beta 87, which is a pretty good helicopter actually. It has AA, it has rockets and a 20mm, 6 strength, so it can take some IR hits and survive. Well, I should say it can take a IR hit and survive. After the second one, it's basically gone. We also have the same version but with 80 gems, 2000 meters range, 70% accuracy and 26 AP. There's incredible anti-tank capabilities right there. Then we also have the Royvalk, which has the same ATGM, but it has also AA capabilities and a 20mm in this tiger-looking like helicopter. So it's basically the French Tiger here. Now what I went for is 4 of these XPTs with the ATGMs, 2 Royvalks unhardened, and we went for 10 L.COL K-Cars. And if you watch my live streams, you know exactly why these are actually good to use. In the plane tab, we have a lot of airplanes. First of all, we have the Buccaneer S Mark 50, which has 4 M-class missiles with 30 AP. It's really good. I've used these a few times. The accuracy kind of disappoints me a few times, but when they do hit, they just wreck. We have the Carver ASF, 155 points, 30mm, 2 sidewinders, and 2 long range. So I do usually like to use these Carvers in pairs and not alone, because after the first like volley, they're already out of long range missiles, which can hurt. Also, worth to mention, it has the maximum speed you can get in this game, 50% accuracy ECM, exceptional air detection, turn radius is 300. In general, this is an incredible airplane. Definitely use it. We have the Cheetah D, which has a slight decrease in speed and ECM, but it has seed missiles, 2 sidewinders, and a 30mm. But this is the seed plane of the South Africans. It's the only one that you can use, but it has 2 missiles, so you can actually go ahead and snipe quite a bit of radar AA with this guy. We have some Sabres with rockets. I've never really used these guys, but they could be really good to use, I guess, as fire support if the enemy AA is non-existent. We have the Mirage, so we're coming up with some French jets, and this guy has this is basically like a fighter again, but not a really good one. 2 sidewinders and only 1 kind of long-range missile with horrible stats, but it has that twin 30. It's 65 points. Maybe you can bait in the enemy planes with this, because you do get 4 on elite, or 7 rookie, for crying out loud. So yeah. Then we have the Mirage F1CZ. If we just compare the two, it has slightly better accuracy, but that is again once about it. It does have 20% ECM, but I don't really know how much that is going to help you out. Then we have the Cheetah C. This is the second best fighter that the South Africans have, compared to the Carver. In terms of long range, it is exactly the same. Close range, it is slightly less in terms of accuracy and stabilizer and HE of the sidewinders. In terms of the other stats here, it has 10 less ECM, but other than that, it's basically the same, and I think the 10 points decrease is definitely a good way to balance that airplane. So it's also another fighter you can put in your battle group. Now we have the Mirage, more Mirage planes. We have this guy with 30 AP M-class missiles, 6 cluster bombs, also in Mirages, 8 HEs, and we have 2 paveways. So we really have a lot of planes that we can really choose out of. We have the French, the Mirage lineup with cluster and HE, then we have the Cheetah lineup with HE and paveways. Now the last thing that we have is the Vampire, and this thing is the biggest derp thing that you can really call out in with this deck. It has 2 napalm bombs, but one of my favorites I think is the Canberra. It has 8 500 kilogram bombs, it has 15 strength, no ECM though, but 15 strength, so it can actually take a lot of hits from enemy AA. I'm not talking about Nuas or Bucks, but if they have like romps or just infrared AA from infantry, it can really take a bunch of hits and still make it out of the battlefield. So that is it for the South African regular deck that I put together and played with for about 8 hours and kind of tinkered here and there to really make it as good as possible. I built my decks to be self-sufficient, meaning that you can do a 1v1 with this. That's why I have multiple command cards and such. But yeah, check it out. There will be a code in the description. Once again, follow me on Twitch and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more Wargame Red Dragon and other strategy games in the future. And with that said, I hope you have a great day. See ya.